So today what we're going to look at is we're going to look at data and all the different ways that we can use and see data in our school system when we make decisions and the different ways. The picture here and the title is Bridging the Gap, and it's under construction because nobody really has a complete picture of how to use the data and all the different data that we have to look at. Different places and different schools, they see it at different levels. It's one of the things that we've come to figure out. So we're going to talk about how we can use the summative assessments that we are taking, our students are taking, and use them in a formative way. Now, for administrators and teachers, we have the Skills Proficiency Report from ACT Aspire. Okay? And this was a new report that most of us were looking at for the very first time. So what I want to do with this report is I want to take it and sit and talk about the different components of the report that we can, the things that we can take away from it that will help us in our classroom. So the first thing, at the very top up there, we had the domains and reporting categories. Okay? So this is ranked by the highest to lowest in what we skipped and what we scored. So there's both up here pictured celebrations and concerns. For this particular class, their highest was justification and explanation. So that's a celebration. That's a major celebration. That means they scored the most points on the things that count the most. Okay? So whatever they're doing in that is working. So this was a fourth grade report. And in comparison, in the same school in the third grade report, their justification and explanation was way down here. So one of the things that came out of that conversation when we talked to these teachers about this was that they started to share what they were doing from one grade to the next that maybe affected that outcome. So they're implementing things at different grade levels now to try to build capacity in that category across the school. So there's your good news. Then you can come over here to your not so good news, your concerns that you have. One of the things that we focused in on here was the geometry, and we did that because within that school building, geometry was a consistent in the bottom third all the way across. So we have talked about and built plans for PD to take place within that domain of geometry to focus on trying to move that trend forward as we go. Okay? Any questions so far? So another part of the report that we have over here is the categories. So notice at the top it says close, and at the bottom there it says needed support. So according to the scale scores, what takes place there is the students go into 1 of 4 categories: exceeding, ready. Those are the good ones because those are what build that ultimate proficiency score that we started with. And then you have close and needed support. So a lot of times what you like to highlight here is that close category, because that close category is those students that we can move into that ready to make them proficient. And that's going to affect that overall score that we started out with the fastest. The bars. The bars are the good things for those that it allows you to get down to what a specific student, the growth rate that they're achieving in the classroom. All right. So the longer the bar and the darker the bar is better the growth. So a long dark bar is high growth for 1 year. The middle-sized dark bar is average growth, and then the light color bar is below average growth. Okay. So what does that mean? If I have a kid that's close, but they have that dark bar, that means that what I did for them that year before worked. And although they may not be ready and in that proficiency yet, but what we did for them in that past year moved them. It caused growth. At the same token, somebody who's exceeding, we've talked to at least one parent this year that when they got their score report back, they were exceeding. But that parent is an exceptional parent. And so they were able to realize, because that bar was the light colored small bar, that it wasn't as good a news as that she would have hoped for, because it means even though she's exceeding, she didn't grow at a rate that she was comfortable with. And so she's going to do a little bit of investigating and see what she's got to do to go back and fill in the gaps there at what was missed. Which leads us into our next slide. How do you know where to go to be able to fill in what was missed? How do you know where and what they missed? Okay? It's where these little boxes come in, and we have to read the report from horizontal and vertical. I can tell things here from this part of the report. If I look vertically, wherever I have the most boxes, what the boxes represent is below the ACT readiness range. Okay? So if I look vertically, and I see vertically, everywhere I have a box, where I have the most boxes, and that represents a domain that maybe I want to focus on because I've got a lot of kids in that domain that didn't master that skill. Okay? They're not ready according to the score. All right? And then individually, I can look at a particular student and I can go across and I can find that box. And because that box is in measurement domain, I know that particular student missed questions in that particular place. Okay? So I can start to think about that in terms of what I'm doing in my classroom, and where that falls into the course of study. And I've already got an idea of who's strong and who's weak in those particular domains as I'm teaching.
On that trend, we included on this sheet when we write this down, when we record this, we do want you to look at the trend as it goes. So third, we have 78% proficient. Fourth, we have 50%. And then fifth, it drops to 34%. And then in sixth, it comes up to 54%.
Now, how do these two things help us? Going back to the third grade, justification, explanation was near the bottom. Okay? So conversations can take place here between what the fourth grade teachers were doing to prepare their students for justification, explanation questions, and have those conversations with the third grade teachers just to share the strategies that you use to push that forward, because it worked for fourth grade, and it may be something that the third grade teachers would like to incorporate as well. So we can build off of each other's strengths. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's some, just thinking that through and what exactly you did with your students. The other thing is look at numbers on third grade, numbers and operations in base 10. Well, your second highest point total there in fourth grade is numbers and operations in base 10. Okay? So again, those conversations can take place within the building.
So looking at the left-hand side at the student names and the numbers next to them, again, they're ranked by highest score to lowest score there. But you're really looking at the arrows to the right. When you see that, like that first student, that long dark arrow, that means that child achieved over a year's growth last year. So, you picked them up. That's a kid that was probably ready last year or could have even been close based on that much growth to get them to where they landed in exceeding. And then you kind of look, everybody on this first page either had over a year's growth or right out of year's growth. Okay?
There's very few low growths throughout the whole report, which is impressive to me. Not even being a fourth grade teacher.
Yeah, I mean, only ones that I saw were on that back page.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at that back page and let's focus.